Hello, Ceramics 1 students. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I hope you got all your clay stuff and you're just so excited to get started. I'm going to, along with you today, so I would like you to get out your clay too, we're going to make a pinch pot, okay? And this is just, it's a very simple thing, like little tiny children can do it, like kindergartners do this in class, I think. So please don't feel like there's a lot of pressure. This is just our first way that is non-graded to get used to the clay that we're working with in school. So I don't know, I couldn't get a really great angle with this camera, but you got your 25-pound block of clay, right? That's exciting. And then all you really need for this is your slip cup. So you got an empty cup of this, take a little chunker of clay, put it in there with water, and you can use it right away, but eventually it'll get nice and slimy and gross. That's slip, clay, water, that's it. So there's a little cup for you, and then you can use your needle tool too if you want to. And all we're gonna do is rip off a chunk of clay from your bag. I don't know, about the size. This is a little smaller than a baseball, isn't it? What is this the size of? A plum? Maybe? Why does it always have to be a piece of fruit that I reference when grabbing a chunk of clay? This might be a little more like a baseball size, perhaps. We'll go over this at length in the next video, but when you're done getting your clay out of your bag, you absolutely need to seal this up tight. So twist it around. And then I like to put the excess on one side and then like set it on there so I know that no air is getting in there. This is your clay to take care of for the semester. If this dries out, you have to reclaim it, which involves a lot of time and a lot of water and a big old mess. So it is crucial that you seal it back up when you're done using it. For your actual clay for the pinch pot, we're going to start by wedging. So you're just going to take the heel of your hand and you're going to hit the clay and then turn the clay. We're trying to keep the clay in a ball shape, right? We're not making pancakes today. We're keeping it in a ball of clay. So why do you wedge clay? You do it to get rid of all the air bubbles that are in there. So what happens is when you create a piece of artwork out of clay, also I'm killing time, you should be wedging along while I'm talking. You should really wedge for about 5 minutes to make sure that we get rid of all the air bubbles. So do this while I talk aimlessly for a little bit here. So we wedge clay to get rid of air bubbles. When you are done creating a piece of artwork out of clay, it has to dry until there's absolutely no moisture in your piece at all. And then we cook it in a big old oven called the kiln. It takes about 24 hours for our kilns to heat up and cool down. They heat up to 2,500 degrees. If you weren't listening, I just said they take 24 hours, which is a whole day. So when you hand me a piece of clay and then 20 minutes later ask if it's fired yet, no, it's not. It's not fired yet, okay? So that's what we're, oh, I'm sorry. So what happens is when it's cooking in the kiln, if there's air bubbles in your piece, they'll expand as they heat up, and then it will cause your piece to crack or break or sometimes even explode, and sometimes even explode to the point where it'll damage a piece that's next to it. So we really want to prevent that from happening to anybody. So that's why it's crucial that we wedge before we start our piece. Another reason why we wedge is to get rid of all the excess moisture in your clay. When this comes out of the bag, it's pretty fresh and really wet and very hard to manipulate. When it's that wet, it gets kind of sticky. It moves a little bit too easily. So if you even like touch it gently, you have a smudge on your clay or you've just ruined something. So we also are doing it to get your clay to a stage where it's good to be handled and worked with, okay? While you're doing that, you'll see your hands are probably drying out quite a bit. That's normal. What you can do is actually like, this is what I recommend. Dipping your fingers in the water of your slip cup, and then I just like do this motion and just keep kind of the moisture on your hands. I do not recommend, you should not do this, dip your clay into the water. That doesn't do anything but create like a slimy surface on the outside of your clay, which is gross, and then like splatters, and it really isn't helpful at all. So you can do that at any time if your hands start to feel really dry. Dip your fingers in the water, and then it'll go away for a little bit, okay? We also don't want any cracking on our clay, so that's another way to notice if your hands are too dry is if your clay starts to crack, so make sure that you're keeping your hands moist. So how to begin a pinch pot? You try to have a ball of clay that looks like a ball, a sphere, if you will, and then you're just going to take your thumb and push it into the clay. And while you do that, you're going to use your hands and kind of pinch all the way around to create a little pot, okay? So all I'm doing when I used to teach elementary art, I started my career as a K-12 art teacher, so I used to teach the little tiny students as well. We would pretend we had gentle lobster claws, and we would just use our lobster claws and pinch all the way around. How do you do this accurately? In a way that makes the pot look how you want it to look, right? So I know that seems very vague and not very helpful, but it's clay. You can do whatever you want to it. What you do is, if you notice like this has a pointy bottom, if you like the pointy bottom, you don't do anything. If you don't like the pointy bottom, you smush it so that the pointy bottom goes away. If you want a really tall piece, you're going to kind of push more upwards. If you wanted a wide bowl, you'd push more outwards. So really, you're just showing the clay where to go. You're telling it what to do because you're the boss, right? That's what we like to hear. One thing you do have to do, though, is you have to get your pinch pot or whatever clay piece you're making thin enough that it won't explode in the kiln too. So like also if pieces are too thick, they might explode. A good rule of thumb is like the thickness of your pinky fingers, a great measure, and to try to keep it consistent. If nothing else, however thick it is, make it that thick everywhere, okay? Same with the base of your pinch pot. I know you can't see that as well, but you can feel with your fingers like where your thumb is touching and where your fingers are touching, and make sure that that's about the thickness of your finger as well. If you start to get little cracks, is this in focus? Little cracks on your clay, maybe? Okay. You can take your slip cup, dip your finger in it, and then you just rub that over the crackled part, and they'll magically disappear. Isn't that exciting? Another fun trick, if you want either your base to be nice and flat or you want your rim to be nice and flat, here, I'll do it over here so you can see it. You can gently tap your pinch pot on the tabletop, and then it's nice and flat. Can you see that? Right, now I have a nice top to mine. And you can do it on the bottom too if you want it to sit nicely. You don't have to. So that's really all we're trying to do. Again, you can make this whatever shape you want to. You could add some sort of embellishment onto this. You could pinch it into the shape of a mug and add a little handle. We are making mugs later, so you don't have to. You could take a second piece of clay and make a little lid for your pot. What else could you do? You should brainstorm in the chat right now what else you could do to your pinch pot as far as the shape goes. But again, this is really just to experiment and make sure you feel comfortable working with clay. So one thing I would like you to do, because again, this is a practice piece, right? And we just want, sorry, can you see? This is what mine looks like. I'm going to be done with the shape of it now, okay? What we want to do is a little bit of practice before our first real project. So I would like you to make some sort of texture in your pinch pot as practice. So I actually have some texture in here because you can see where my fingers were pressing around the pinch pot. If you do not like that, you could wait until this gets leather hard, which we will talk about at length, but leather hard means that it's hard enough that I can carve into it, but it's dry enough that it won't like bend when I push on it. So right now, if I push on this, you can see the whole wall bending. So we would have to let it dry out a little bit before it gets leather hard. Yeah. So with your text, oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. So if once it gets leather hard, you could take your finger, you could take that yellow sponge that's in your kit, or you could take the back side of a spoon and you could just rub that back and forth on your piece and it will smooth it out beautifully. The trick is you have to wait till it's leather hard. If you try doing that right now, it's really just going to kind of smush everything around. So we're going to create texture. I'm just going to show you with your needle tool all the different textures you can create. So obviously you could carve something in here. Like, ooh, that is quality stuff I'm making. Like I wrote the word art, great. You could do that. You could write your name if you wanted to. I will tell you that in the kiln, clay shrinks a little tiny bit, so sometimes stuff that we make with a needle tool isn't really apparent after it's done being fired, that you really want thicker letters for it to show up. But these are fine for today when we're practicing. Also, if you don't like what you're doing, you can just use your finger and rub it away. Or use your finger and like smush the clay a different way if you've made a big old chunk disappear or anything like that. You could also take your needle tool and kind of use it vertically and make some vertical lines everywhere on it. Can you see that? Yeah. You could also do the same thing with the handle, press it in that way. You could press your handle in this way and make some nice polka dots. Isn't that exciting? You could do that all the way around. Again, if you don't like it, you can just take your finger and get rid of it. And again, now I have kind of a little dent in here, so I might just have to go back and kind of pinch around and smooth and even everything back out if I don't like what I did, okay? So clay is not something to get stressed out about because you literally can fix everything, I think, at least when it's fresh. We'll see if I regret saying that. So yeah, some sort of texture all around your pot is part of this project, okay? So yeah, you probably can finish this by the end of class. Obviously, if you are somebody who takes a lot longer to work, which some artists do, you could work on this in your own time too. When you're done with it, I would love it if you took a picture of it and uploaded it to Google Classroom so that we could see what you made, right? It's not getting graded, but I want, like, not only do I want you to practice with clay, I want you to practice taking a photo and uploading it too, because that's how you'll submit all of your projects. So please let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you like this project. Let me know what you made. I'm very excited. Yeah, I hope you have a great day. We'll see you in class. Bye.